Hello, everyone. This is Jacob Popio, the producer of The Apex. Today, we interview RJ Holliday. He is a professional bodybuilder from North Canton, Ohio. And we go into the power of being a wrestler. Then we go into an interesting dichotomy of starting at a disadvantage and then finding your true potential. Lastly, we go into the super nerd that happens to be a bodybuilder. Please subscribe and hope this pushes you toward your apex.
Welcome to JJD Thoughts Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, John Almasy, and today I'm going to open up with a reading from a gentleman named Jocko Willink. If you don't know who that is, go ahead and look him up. I highly, highly recommend all of the stuff that he has to offer. He was a Navy SEAL and wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, and I credit a lot of what I'm doing now to him. And then I think this reading is from a book called his Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. And they're basically little snippets of his main theses. And I think that this one really kind of describes our guest today. I'm going to go ahead and read that for you guys. So the title of this is Me versus Me. There are people in the world who have skills and strength and talent that I will never have. Never. These notions that you can be whatever you want to be as long as you want it bad enough are not true. They are fairy tales. We all have limitations. I don't have the right genes to be an Olympic weightlifter. I don't have the right genetics to be an Olympic sprinter or gymnast. Sure, if I trained my whole life, perhaps I could become fairly decent in those sports. But the best in the world? No. I simply do not have the DNA to be the best in the world in those categories. But what does that mean? Does that mean I give up? Does that mean I quit? Of course not. Not at all. It means that I'm going to try to be the best that I can be, the strongest, the fastest, the smartest human being that I can become. That is what I'm going to go for. And it doesn't matter that I will not be better than the others when I compare myself to them. No, I will look at others who do achieve greatness in a category and I will say, look at what is possible. How close can I get to that greatness? How close can I get to that glory? But my glory, it doesn't happen in front of a crowd. It doesn't happen in a stadium or on a stage. There are no medals handed to me. It happened in the darkness of the early morning, in solitude, where I try and I try and I try again with everything I have to be the best that I can possibly be. Better than I was yesterday. Better than the people thought I could be. Better than I thought I could be. Faster, stronger, and smarter. And claim one victory that no one can ever take from me. Ever. A victory that is earned every single day. A victory of determination and will and discipline. A victory achieved because I will not stop. So like I said, that's a reading from Jocko Willink's Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. And I really think that it kind of encompasses a lot of what it takes to be successful in the sport that our guest on the podcast today is involved in. So you're waving. RJ, if you would like to introduce yourself, welcome to the show.
My name's RJ Holliday. I'm here born and raised here in North Canton, and me and Jan have been friends for quite a while now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's been a good
I felt like I should have clapped after that. That was I don't read that well. I mean, I read well, but I don't read like that.
You can't read? That's a struggle.
Yeah. Go figure. With the look, you'd assume I can't read books, but...
All right, and then on my right-hand side here, we have the JJD Thoughts co-founder, Jacob. Jacob, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jacob Popio. I'm the co-founder of JJD Thoughts.
Okay. So, RJ, so that, after hearing me read that, right, what does that invoke anything in you? Does that ring any true bells for you? Because I know, I picked out that reading specifically because we've been friends for a while. I know the kind of training that goes into you prepping for a show whatever else. But what did that reading specifically do for you just now?
The thing, if you're looking specifically at bodybuilding, when and I'm trying to relate what you just read to that, it's the fact that there are, when you compete against people, you start at a disadvantage with some people. Some people just have crazy legs, crazy chest, crazy back, and it's near impossible to bring yourself up to that level. But that doesn't mean that you can't compete.
Right.
The thing is, I mean, I've always had a weak chest. Like I've had to work for my arms, and praise be to God that my grandparents and my dad gave me great genetics for my legs. Like for somebody who's as tall as I am, which 5'11" isn't incredibly tall for someone who does. But for bodybuilding, you're up there when you're competing against guys who are 250 pounds, 5'2", just rolling around like boulders in the gym.
Right.
Like I have good legs. I've never had to really work for something like that. But I have always had to work on my chest and my arms and like the middle of my back and stuff like that to bring it up to that level. But like, you see some people who have just crazy genetics, like off the bat. Like you look at pictures of them before they even started bodybuilding, and you're like, how did they look like that? Just, living like a everyday life and whatnot. But I've gone to shows and I've placed better than them because I've put the time and effort into, making my weaknesses strengths. And instead of, trying to ride off of what I was born with, I've made better what naturally I was lacking.
Right.
So, I mean, if you run into somebody who has the motivation that I and other athletes do, plus the genetics, you can just kiss your chances goodbye because they're just absolutely godlike physiques and stuff like that. But in my opinion, you very rarely run into somebody who has that mental fortitude to push themselves on top of already having like great genetics. And the guys that do have that are the ones that are professional bodybuilders right now.
Right. And that's kind of the whole mantra with the whole like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean? If you try to just ride through life on the gifts that you've been given, and that's just it. You're not applying them, or you won an award, but now it's just hanging on the wall. You're not trying to push for the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're stagnant.
Yeah,
you can still
absolutely
be complacent, and even if you were blessed with a bunch of different things, you can still be complacent in those things and never amount to anything.
Push it. That's why I never understand. If you're blessed with something to begin with, why not push it? Like push it. See how far you can like grow that, whether it's a talent or specifically a body part or something like that.
Right.
See how far you can push it. Like determined to, be the apex of what you were born with. Like, I get really upset when I see people who are naturally gifted and stuff and do nothing with it.
Right.
Like my sister, blessed artist, but she enjoys it and she's so good at it, and she's just like, oh, I don't want to do it because I don't want to make a job out of it. I'm like, it could not have to be a job. I was like, you could do something so well, and then it turned into something like that you love, and you just spin it out of control, and it becomes not a job anymore, but you're living exactly what you want to do.
Right. It's like if you chase your passion rather than chasing the money.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, well, I don't want it to turn into a job. I'm like, you had a man offer you $500 to $1,000 to design like shoes, like Nike Air Force Ones. And she's like, no. I'm like, please. I was like, please just throw money at me like that.
Right. Well, and I kind of feel that too with my little brother. I mean, he's got more musical talent in his pinky than I have in my entire body. Right.
They kicked me out of choir and in high school. They asked me politely to leave.
So, but Sam is like, he's this amazing musician, right? And granted, he's 16 years old. You know what I mean? And all of us at 16 years old, I mean,
you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
all of your eggs in one basket. Yeah, and I understand that. And but being a trumpet player, like if you can make $500 in a weekend to play at a wedding,
Oh, absolutely.
Why would you not want to do that?
Yeah.
I was busting butt at Burger King, working
Flipping burgers.
Yeah, the entire time, and I'd make $200 a week. You make more than that in a weekend?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding?
It's crazy.
All right. So all of that aside, so you mentioned that you grew up in the Canton area, right? So let's back it up. Just kind of talk about, because we kind of just dived right into the bodybuilding, right? Because but let's back it up and
It's
say
all anybody ever wants to talk to me about.
Right, yeah. Well, they're also probably scared to ask you of anything else.
95% of the time.
If I don't tell him to talk about his biceps, he's going to hit me. No, so we grew up, actually, I graduated from Canton South, so we're right down the road. From each
I
other.
graduated from Jackson High School.
Right.
In North Canton, yep.
So let's talk about, how did you end up in bodybuilding, first off? You know what I mean? So just walk us through high school. The things that you did in high school that were athletic and everything, and then how you ended up
being a bodybuilder.
Developing a passion for, picking things up and putting them back down.
Well, it was a Wednesday, so specifically. No. I was always an athlete. My parents were very, very big on letting us try everything. Even if it was just like in a passing glance, like they heard that we liked something or wanted to do something, my parents were always like, well, try it for a season. Do this for a day. Let's go to do this camp or whatever. So I always, from as far back as I can remember, I played baseball. I started off with soccer. Started coming up to the age where, like in second grade, where, the teachers and stuff would put stuff together, be like, oh, come try out basketball, come try out all this. I came home with a flyer for wrestling in second grade. And it was just basically never turned around from that. My dad played basketball all the way through high school and college and stuff. Right. Absolutely tore him apart. Like, he was like, oh, really? Wrestling during the same season? I was like, I didn't know. But I ended up wrestling for a couple years. Tried one season of basketball, I think in like 4th, 5th, 6th grade or something like that. Father immediately said, you can go back to wrestling. It was real bad.
Nice.
So I ended up wrestling in total, it was like 16 years. And then as I got into high school, I ended up doing Greco and freestyle, like out of season wrestling. So I started off like my freshman year of high school, was a 3-sport athlete. I played football, I played baseball, I wrestled, broke I shattered my left hip in football.
That's a bit of a bigger injury than just a foot, man.
Yeah, well,
I
had a lot of injuries in high school. I hurt my ankle in baseball,
Whoops, that was my hip.
which is what I was thinking, yeah. But I actually stepped wrong, and my femur was not set and slid up through my pelvis and broke everything off of my left pelvis. So
nice.
I ended up being on crutches for like 6-7 months. Went to 2 different rehab places. I luckily escaped the diaper cast, which would have been real bad. I was like, there ain't no way I'm going to be an incoming freshman and be in a full-on diaper cast. I was like, no. I was like, I don't care if I can walk with a gimp for the rest of my life. Nope. So unfortunately, I missed my entire freshman year of wrestling.
Okay.
And that very much upset me because that was my favorite sport at the time. So I quit. Right. I quit football. I was like, I don't want any more injuries. Got back into doing the out of season because I missed the whole season. I was like, I need to do something in my off time.
And out of season, I think is, and so I wrestled for 13 years, right? And so out of season, I think is really where all the growth happens, honestly. Like in season, there's absolutely a lot of growth and there's a lot of other stuff, but you have so much more opportunity out of season where you're not focusing on cutting weight. You're not focusing on everything else. You can lift, be massive, be fast, and just learn Greco, learn freestyle, learn moves that you can't do during the season, but they help you so much.
Oh, yeah,
just
absolutely.
Expanding your knowledge.
What I learned in doing Greco and freestyle, I took back into regular collegiate wrestling, which 95% of the people that wrestle in high school, like regular, what they call collegiate wrestling,
right,
don't know those moves. There's so many moves in freestyle and Greco that you pull out on a regular high school kid that wrestles that doesn't do anything in the off season. It's like a whole different world on them. They're like, oh, this guy's got my legs tied up a pretzel, and I'm doing a 720 on the mat. Like it was crazy. So I very much enjoyed doing that, and then eventually just kind of led me out of baseball at that point because I just really wanted to focus on wrestling. So when I came back my sophomore year, I wrestled about 175 pounds, which at the time I was right around 180, 185 my sophomore year of high school, like normally, just not really trying, eating basically whatever I want.
Being a teenager.
Yeah. Junior year, dropped down to like 155, a couple matches I wrestled, 160. By my senior year of high school, I cut from 180, 190 and wrestled 142 pounds.
Solid.
Walking, and I was as tall as I am now. I looked like a walking Holocaust victim. It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
I mean, it's cutting weight that I mean, for wrestling can be intense, because I started out wrestling at 220.
Mm-hmm.
And then my progression was kind of similar, except I tapped out at 160, but I'm also 6'2". So
that's like the equivalent. I mean?
Yeah. So when I was down at 160, I look at pictures of myself now and I'm like, whoa.
Like, 1 inch I equivalent to like 10, 15 pounds.
Right.
So yeah, that's about, you cut about as much weight as I did.
Yeah. So 160, I mean, I was eating, and I didn't do it healthy, you know, because I didn't know any better when I was in high school. Like, if I would know what I knew now about dieting and stuff to cut down that weight and try and stay strong, I would have done it. But in high school, I was just like, I'm going to run a ton. I'm not going to eat. Cool. And then I'm just going to dehydrate a bunch of water before the match. And then I'm going to die in the second period because I have no energy.
And that was like in high school, that's the only way I knew how to lose weight. Like, I was sleeping in trash bags, you know, Triscuit, a little bit of peanut butter, literal beaker of water, just like, drop, and that's literally all you get for the whole
day.
Day.
A little bit of pickle juice because your legs are cramping.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I was dominant being 142 pounds. Like, all the other people I was wrestling were like 5'2", and I'm 5'11". It was great, but it wasn't worth what it did to my body. Right. I ended up having like a pectoral tear or something like that right in the middle of the season. So
no nutrients in there.
No, my body was falling apart, and I was like, and I didn't do it like on my own. I did it because my team asked me to. Nobody else could make the weight and whatnot, and people didn't want to make the weight, and I was like, I'll do it. I was like, I know I can do it, so I'll do it. And I was like, if I can pull it off, I'll pull it off well.
Right.
And it just didn't play in my favor. So, like,
and that's a big thing. I think that there's a lot of things that can be learned from just that statement you made right there. It was just like the team needed me to step up, and whether it was because somebody didn't want to do it or somebody's not able to, I'm willing to sacrifice what I have to sacrifice.
I tried it. I said,
get down to that weight to help the team. And that's something that, I mean, is huge just as a lesson in high school sports in general, is just you learn that, hey, other people are relying on me. I need to make sure that I get down to this. Otherwise, I disappoint the team.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, wrestling was kind of falling off, like the younger kids that kept coming up as seniors, just like, not that they weren't as like good, but we just didn't have as many people to fill. And and it always works out that way because in wrestling, all the really good guys focal into that like the same like 4 weight classes. So all the good kids that were coming up were all like, we had like 3 stacked at 145 pounds that all should have and could have had their own spot on the team, but they didn't want to wrestle each other off, didn't want to change weight classes, blah, 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 whatever.
Right. And our coach, I wrestled 170 the majority of the year, my senior year, right? There were 2 other people at that weight class. And our coach every week forced wrestle-offs on Mondays because he was like, if you're at practice and you're here, he was like, I want the best guy on the mat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's like, you have to defend your position every week. So every week, I'd have to wrestle 3 periods with 2 guys. Hopefully, I pinned one of them quick so that I could
rest up a
little bit before the second one. But the guy that was on the varsity team at that point had to wrestle off both of them, one right after another, in order to keep the spot.
Well,
and it was just like you had that, and it did wonders for the team.
Well, yeah,
because that intensity picked up, and you're like, oh, okay, I really need to make sure that I'm busting butt in practice because I can't lose my spot.
That's the problem too, because when I looked, and this kind of leads into how I got into bodybuilding and whatnot, is like when I'm looking to like wrestle at Kent State or Mount Union or whatever after I graduate and whatnot, like most of them, whether it was me looking to walk on or them offering me and what, like a spot on the team, it was at 142 pounds. And I'm like, I cannot do that. I cannot do that for another 4 years. No, absolutely not. I was like, I'll fall apart. And then you ask them like, well, what about your 160 pounder, your 170 pounder? What if they're already locked into their, tuition and their
politics.
No, not the politics, but like their literal like when a school offers you to play sports at their school.
Isn't that just a scholarship?
Scholarship, yeah, that's the word. I kept wanting to say grant. I kept wanting to say grant, and I was like, that's not right. Yeah, they're like, well, they've already accepted their
You sure you can read?
scholarship. No, I can't listen to my own brain. But they're like, oh, they're already locked in their scholarship. So if you wrestle them off, there's a chance they may not want to go here. And then I was like, well, then I don't want to wrestle. It's not worth it to me.
Right.
So then after that happened to me, I was kind of just like, I'll just go get a degree. I was like, I always thought, like, I always was hoping that I'd like go to a school because of a sport, but it just ended up not happening like that. And I was definitely mad. I was definitely like lost for a while, where I was like, I never thought I'd have to like choose where I go to school and what I go to school for. I was like, I thought it would just kind of happen. Right. So,
well, and also, I mean, you have to dedicate so much time into being, first off, a 3-sport athlete when you started out, and then wrestling just consumes everything.
It's not something that you can just leave there at the school.
Yeah.
Like you track, you run a little bit, you do what you have to for your track team or football team, and then you go home. Wrestling, it's like, and I think that's why I like bodybuilding too, is like you go home with it. It's not just, I just go to the gym or whatever for an hour and 2 hours, and then I get to go home and do whatever I want.
Right.
It's like, it follows me home. It consumes every hour that I'm awake, and then I have to also pay attention when I'm sleeping. And so after all that, I ended up going, I think, Kent State Stark for like a year there before they told me to transfer up to Akron for the degree that my bachelor's degree that I ended up getting from Akron. And I was just like, I needed to stay active. And I was like, I don't really want to go back to wrestling. I was like, whether it be some like offs, like, you know, not on a like team or whatever, but you know, they hold like
open tournaments.
Yeah, open tournament. I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I started lifting. And then as I started lifting, I just realized like I threw on weight like crazy. I was like, oh, I've been cutting weight most of my life. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm trying to eat and gain weight. It just flooded on me. And then by like just chance, you know, being friendly and nice and, you know, talking to whoever, that's the biggest thing. People ask like, well, how do you like stay motivated in the gym and do all this stuff and like all your different exercises? Pay attention to the people around you. Be nice, be friendly. Ask them if they're doing something you've never seen before. There's a reason that they're doing it.
Exactly.
So ask them. I've picked up so much just from literally just being creepy. Like,
observing and listening. I always
like,
if you're meeting somebody or you're watching somebody do something the first time, listen 80%, talk 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
And you pick up so much just listening to other people talk. And that's kind of what this whole entire podcast is all about. It's just like you have no idea what these people, I mean, me and you were just ordinary kids from Stark County. You know what I mean? And Jake, like we're all from the same area, but none of us would have probably ever gotten together.
No, absolutely.
You know, and the people that are going to be able to hear this are just assuming like, oh, like that's a weird trio to kind of end up in the same room at the same time. But you learn so much from just talking and opening your mind.
Exactly. So I luckily got met up with a guy at Powerhouse over in North Canton off the 77, and he was like, you know, he kind of basically took me under his wing, and it was like, didn't charge me. Wasn't like, hey kid, $500 a month, and I'll give you a diet plan and an exercise plan. Just wanted to be nice, help me out. Ended up doing one show with him. Ended up placing fourth in the light heavyweight novice. Light heavyweight, like open, fourth out of, I think, 8, which
that was the Rubber City Classic.
That was the Rubber City Classic in, I think, 2011. And I ended up winning my weight class in the novice, which is because it was my first show. So it was me and I think 2 other kids or younger guys. I was the youngest one there, but ended up winning that and then fourth in the open. Took some time off, was still in school up at Akron. Put on a little bit of weight, ended up competing at the, the Ohio State, NPC Ohio State Championships in 2015. And I ended up being the heavyweight Mr. Ohio that year. So I ended up throwing all my weight on. I threw all my eggs into one basket. I trained. I got with a new trainer who, once again, just because of seeing my hard work in the gym, offered to help me. Actually, I talked him up one ear and down the other for like a year and a half. And then finally one day I just got fed up with it and I was like, would you help me? And he's just like, yeah. And he's like, I've been
waiting for you.
Yeah,
to
that's
ask. Is that what he said?
basically I was waiting for you to kind of bring it up.
Well, and it's like with people like that, it's weird. Like when people can feel that work ethic, like it's like a vibe.
Yeah.
When people walk into the gym, and you can definitely tell the difference between the people that are there for social time, and that's the same thing in the military. It's the same thing at work. It's the same thing anywhere. You can tell that the people that are there to get stuff done. You don't have to be a dick about it.
No,
like you can be there to get stuff done and still be open, still be friendly and stuff like that. But people can pick up on that vibe, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, he's a hard worker. Cool. I'm just waiting for him to ask me to train."
And then it just kind of snowballed after that. So the weekend after I asked him to help me, and he's still my trainer now. We don't train together as much because he's got family stuff going on, but he's still in my ear. He's very diligent when it comes to checking in on me, make sure I'm staying. And that's nice. That's nice to have. It's hard to be hard on yourself day in and day out without somebody else kind of sitting there over your shoulder like, hey, just remember what the end goal is. Remember what you're looking to do at the end. And it's good to surround yourself with people like that. There are some people who can just sit there and motivate themselves day in and day out, and that works. Like I'm a person that can do that to myself, but you kind of get a refresher when you hear in someone else in your life is also
reinforced.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, okay, I'm not the only one that wants to see me do well.
Well, there's a quote above the door in my boxing gym that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together."
Yeah.
And it's just, if you want to, you can move quick and pick up all of this motivation and be super motivated. But the definition of motivation is just understanding why you're doing something. Like being motivated is just like, oh, I understand how that's going to benefit me. But without discipline, motivation's completely useless because motivation's fleeting. Like you might wake up motivated, you might not wake up motivated.
And
you have those days where,
gone.
right. Yeah. And it's gone. It's just like, screw this. The day's over.
Yep.
But, if you have the discipline, you can be like, okay, I remember 2 days ago, I was super motivated. I want to feel that way again. I might not be like that today, but I need to go get my work done. And then when I'm standing on the show and everything pays off, then it was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so he still helps me out. And then right after that, the weekend after, he's just like, I want to introduce you to somebody. I'm like, all right. So getting in his car, drive all the way down to Columbus. He introduced me to IFBB Pro Mike Francois, who owns and trains other professional athletes, professional bodybuilders. My head exploded. I didn't know. I didn't know that Mike was the one training my trainer when he was competing in the late 90s, early 2000s. That sent me through the roof. I was like, whoa. I was extremely motivated, extremely motivated. So once again, I grounded out over another 2 years and ended up doing Mike's show in Columbus in 2017. I ended up taking fourth in the open for heavyweight and very upset about it.
And that's the right before that time is when we met. Cause I remember you doing that show.
Yeah. And I was I thought I looked the best that I had been and that I ever had. I was the heaviest I'd ever been. And it kind of proved to me for as tall as I am, I have to be super heavyweight. I missed super heavyweight by 4 pounds or something like that. Did I look good? Yeah. But when a kid walks in at 205 pounds, 5'2", doesn't even bother to cut water because he's doing a national show the week afterwards and he doesn't want to mess with his water retention levels or whatever. Right. It just smokes everybody there's an issue. There's something else that I could have done better to do that. So of course I got a little bit down on myself and whatnot, but I never stopped going to the gym. And then a few months ago, I was like, I'm tired of just running through the motions. I kicked it into high gear and I'm like, I will not step on stage again until I'm above 225 pounds, as low body fat as I possibly can. And that would put me at super heavyweight. So right now I'm sitting at about 255, 260. A couple months ago, I was about 245. If I can hit 270, 275, and then cut down to as lean as I even was for the last show, I'll be way above 225 and I'll have done what I set out to do.
Right. And my wrestling coach back in the day said that if you try something and it doesn't work, don't get discouraged. And he was talking about wrestling moves, right? But he always compared everything that he talked about to not just wrestling, but to life. Because his whole mantra was like, I'm going to make you into a good man, and then you'll be a good wrestler. That was his whole mentality.
I believe that firmly.
Yeah.
If I ever am blessed with boys, they're wrestling for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, freestyle, Greco, something.
Turns you into a gentleman.
Yes, that's true. Well, and it humbles you. For sure.
Big time. There's no other.
It's you and the other person on the mat. There's no other BS.
Yep.
There's no excuses. It's like,
I think that's
if you
what I
win,
like most
you win.
about it.
If you lose, you didn't do the work, or the other guy was just better than you, and you have to accept the fact that there's always someone bigger, faster, stronger, and more technical than you, and that's just a super humbling thing. But back to the main point, he always would say, if you try something and it's not successful, don't worry, change levels and direction. And for a wrestling move, that's like, okay, high crotch didn't work, try to attack his upper body. Let's try a throw.
Ankle picks all day, baby.
Ankle pick, yeah. Man, I like the fireman's carry and the Turk. I always hit those two.
After Greco, it was just throws all day.
Yeah.
If I could get behind you, I'm launching you. You just gone through the roof. I loved it.
Ooh, I hated that kind of stuff. Mostly because I would end up being the one getting thrown.
Tossed.
Yeah, I'd be getting tossed.
It was nice in like Greco because you could throw people and it didn't matter. Like they could in collegiate, it's like, well, your shoulder has to touch first, so you don't hurt the other person.
Yeah, there's a lot
in Greco, they're like, you can corkscrew his head into the mat if you so find it fitting.
But I mean, so you decided like, hey, this weight class isn't working for me. Instead of being like, oh, screw bodybuilding, you're like, all right, cool. I just need to change levels. I'm going to move up to super heavyweight. I'm going to change direction and remotivate myself here. And then boom, that happens. So now that he's talking about training and putting on all this weight and everything else like that, let's walk through, because there's a lot of people that probably understand like the discipline and all the craziness that goes into stuff like this. But I know a lot of people are like, oh, you get to eat all the time and lift? That's not bad. Until they're trying to force feed themselves.
Yeah.
And then you're like sick all the time. But I'll go through your schedule and then you can kind of talk about it. So he emailed me just a kind of a general schedule of what a day would look like.
Then this is during competition. This is not like, every day like what I'm doing right now.
But during competition, I mean, this can be up to 12, 18 weeks prior.
The last show I did was a 25-week diet.
Right.
Never again.
And that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it might be only during show time.
Half a year I dieted.
That's what I'm saying. That's half a year. You know what I mean? So most people, a diet's like, oh, I'm gonna go on a diet for like a 30-day cleanse.
Oh, it's gotten longer every time. First one was like 10. Second one was like 12 to 15, and then my trainer's just like 25. I'm like, he's like, please no.
So for 25 weeks, picture this. So 7 a.m. fasted cardio, 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, that basically means that you don't have any food in your system yet. You're just doing cardio.
Empty. Burn as much fat as you can, right? Get your metabolism skyrocketed first thing in the morning.
Okay, and then so an hour after that at 8 a.m., eat first meal. So what would an example of a first meal be?
You want for so obviously the closer you get to a show, you got to cut more carbs out, but we'll go kind of like in the middle of my dieting. 8 ounces of steak every morning with 3 egg whites, 1 whole egg. So 4 eggs in total. And then half a cup uncooked oatmeal and half a grapefruit.
Uncooked oatmeal.
You're just half a cook, okay, so 1 full cooked up to.
Gotcha.
1 cup.
So
we're talking about just straight.
He must be like a horde.
Yeah.
Just eating
We're talking
that's like some like sponge. But welcome to the salty spittoon.
Yeah.
I eat nails for breakfast.
If it doesn't lacerate your throat on the way down, it doesn't count.
Jeez.
But yeah, so we're talking half a cup, and you put a half a cup of water, and then it cooks up to like 3/4 of a cup to a cup. Yeah. But that's a lot of oatmeal.
That's like 60 grams of carb right there. That's a lot of oatmeal.
And then like obviously as I get closer, it'll go down. So it'll be eventually you'll get to the point where it's like, only 1/4 of a cup of oats in the morning. And then, there's no rice or potatoes or anything else like that throughout the rest of the day. But if we're talking like right at the beginning of my dieting or about like halfway, like through a 25-week diet and whatnot, you're still eating like that. It's just clean.
Right. Okay, so then 2 hours after that, you're eating pre-workout meal. Or no, you're eating a second meal. Okay, and then noon pre-workout meal, which is your meal number 3. So then 1 to 3 p.m. you're training, and then you're also doing cardio. 3 p.m. post-workout meal 1. 5 p.m. Post-workout meal 2, which is at this point meal 5. Okay. And then at 7 p.m., eat meal 6. 8 p.m., more cardio if it's necessary at that point you're dieting, and along with doing some stretching and some other stuff. And then another meal at 10 p.m. Most people are like, oh, why would you eat past whatever? But
You do most of your recovery when you sleep.
exactly. So 10 p.m., you're eating meal 7. So that's 7 meals a day, right? And these aren't like
And that's when I'm dieting.
tiny meals.
When you're trying to gain weight, oh God. It's those meals like in the breakfast, and then my trainer's like, then just throw 4 pancakes on top of it. Or like it's like so most of my meals consist of like a half a pound of meat. So not breakfast related, like half a pound of meat, whether that's steak, chicken, turkey, pork.
Right.
I don't eat a lot of pork, but meat wise, pork. We'll throw it in there. Just a half a pound of bacon. Oh God.
That's a heart attack waiting.
But then on top, like with that, it's like a cup of some type of veggie and then a cup of some type of carb. So sweet potatoes, white rice, brown rice, and then veggies, broccoli, asparagus, green beans, whatever. And then so when I'm dieting, those all get proportioned down the closer I get to a show. But then when I'm not dieting, like now, it's like, oh yeah, well, eat all that and then have a half a pie on top of it.
yeah.
Because the calories is you need the caloric intake. So I'm eating probably 8 times a day right now. And then if I have the room to snack in between, if I don't have food coming out of my ears,
Right.
I'm eating
Well,
on top of that.
that was your first question today. Was like, hey, after we're done recording the podcast,
You want to
go get
eat?
something?
I was
to
like,
eat?
I need to eat. Yeah. So I ate like in the car on my way here, and then I'll eat immediately afterwards.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's an intense schedule, right? And that's
absolutely.
regimented all the way throughout the day. And like with this little line right here that you included at the bottom of the email kind of made me laugh because it's like I fit school, work, and whatever else I do around this schedule. So you do like the things that people are like, I work, I do school, I have to fit working out around that schedule. You're like, nope, I got to fit that around this schedule.
Exactly.
It's flip-flop. So you have that, especially when I get close to a show, there's no deviation.
No, you can't. You get set into such a schedule and you become so hyper-focused on the end goal and whatnot. When those routines do get broken, hissy
Meltdown.
fits. Yeah, it's straight up hissy fits. Yeah, you don't like it anymore. And at that point, when your body is so tailored to you're getting this at this time and that time and sleeping by that time and whatever else.
Yeah, your body gets to expecting
it gets weird. Like you don't put food in it at a certain time. Like I've gotten to the point where like if I'm full on dieting like that, my body will start producing digestive enzymes in my stomach before I start eating because it knows food's coming, and I'll have acid reflux before I even eat.
Nice. That's
not nice.
intense.
It's horrible.
That's intense.
It's absolutely horrible. like I'll start like burping and having like bad like burning sensation from my esophagus down to my stomach like 15 to 20 minutes before I start eating because my body it knows. It's done it for 25 weeks. It knows that food's coming in at this time, that time, or whatever.
The human body is so crazy.
It gets in, and then it's like if I don't eat after that, it's horrible.
I bet.
You gotta drink milk and just half a box of Tums.
And I've never cut weight for a show, right? But I've cut weight for wrestling, and I've cut weight when I had to fight for the Golden Gloves.
That was the best part about it. I was so used to like eating very minimally, and the guy was like, when I did my first show, my first trainer, and he was just like, "Yeah, you're still gonna be eating 6 times a day." I was like,
nice.
Stop lying to me.
Right.
I was like, don't you dare lie to me. I thought I was just going to be, I thought it was going to be like wrestling.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Rice and a pizza.
Yeah, I didn't know any different from wrestling. And then they're like, no, you're still going to be eating all of this. I was like, this is the best sport I've ever found in my entire life. Like, this is great. and I think that's where like other people get really like bent out of shape. They're like, I can't do all the food. I can't do all this when it comes to bodybuilding and training. And I was like, I love this. I was like, this is so much different than wrestling. And I was like, I think that was a big part of my advantage in the beginning because I was like, I could pack it away. I could eat it because I was used to not eating.
When you're like super excited that you get to eat food.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my, in the very beginning, that was the biggest thing I loved most about bodybuilding was how different from anything else that I had done. And like you said with wrestling, like, it's one-on-one, like you're competing, like There's nobody else. You can't blame it on a teammate who dropped a fly ball or whatever. This is even so much different than wrestling. It's you. It is you you're competing with.
Right. And that's why I read the me versus me.
Yeah. It's you. And I think we talked on the phone not too long ago and whatnot about like, staying motivated and whatnot. It helps to find something that you really like. So when I was in the gym, like I told you, I push myself in the gym, but I have never had to push myself to be there in the first place.
Exactly. You feel pulled to the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's never been like, oh crap, like roll out of bed. I got to go and eat all this and eat all that and then go to the gym by 3 and blah, 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 blah. It's okay. I got to do this. I got to do that. I'm getting my butt in the gym. And then that's where you got to dig deep. You got to, you're 2 weeks out from a show now. You're barely eating any carbs compared to what you were doing 10 weeks ago and whatnot. You feel like crap. You already done 2 hours of cardio that day. And you're like, this is when it happens. This is when your real potential comes out. This is when you find out who you really are.
Yeah, it's that mental,
mental
game at that point. It's where your brain, your body is screaming, I can't do this, I can't do this. But your brain, I heard it once compared to like your body is the troops and your brain is the general. And if the general tells the troops what to do, the troops are going to move.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of whether the troops want to or not, because they respect the authority of the brain.
Yeah.
So in the human body, I mean, if you're mentally, you're just like, nope, I'm going to be in there.
Exactly.
Your body will do it.
Yeah.
It will.
But it's not going to do it
people
to
are capable
your best
of
ability.
crazy, crazy things if they set their mind to it. And doing 2 hours of cardio on no carbohydrates and then going into the gym and forcing yourself to work out is one of those things.
I mean, it's just it's crazy how much my mentality at things has changed when I found something that I truly liked. Like, there's people who, school. They enjoy being here. They enjoy putting the time in and going through school and like getting a degree and whatnot.
I said nerd. I'm making fun of myself. I'm not trying to make
and I could never do that. Like I wasn't bad at school. I was never bad at school. Like I graduated.
You want to be a physician's assistant, don't you?
Yeah,
I'm going. I'm going to school to be a PA.
Yeah,
coming from somebody that just graduated.
I couldn't think of the word scholarship, but I'll be your PA one day. So I mean, but nothing's ever hit me like bodybuilding did.
Right.
Like school, like people wake up and like, hey, I got all this stuff to do at school and I'm going to study and, do good on my tests and whatnot. I did good. I kind of wrote it out in school. I was like, oh, whatever. Now I enjoy the classes and everything I'm doing for like PA school at Mount right now because it took me a whole bachelor's degree and a whole bunch of other stopped ventures while I was in school to realize I didn't like any of them. And once again, I think like through bodybuilding, like I realized like it has to draw me in first because I will not ever put the time in that it would take to succeed in it if it doesn't draw me to it first.
Right. And that's, the principle of just having a vocation versus having a job.
Yeah, exactly.
And I talked about that in the speech here at Walsh. I was just like, if you need to find something that you're passionate about, you find a vocation, Monday will be your favorite day of the week.
Exactly.
You won't feel like you have to push yourself to get there because you like it, you enjoy it. Like when I was studying for nursing school and stuff, there were some things that I thought were super boring or super hard to understand, but most of the time I was like, like I'm gonna nerd out on Cod Academy for 2 hours after studying because this is so cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I really lucked out kind of just falling into the bodybuilding and then having that become such a like huge passion. I mean, it redirected my bachelor's degree that I got at Akron. So I graduated there with a bachelor's in exercise science, sport management. So in hopes to one day like own and operate like my own gym, which at the time I was like, I want to do that like immediately after I get out of school. But then the more I realized it, I was kind of like, that's something more that I'd want to fall back on. Like at the end, like, because me personally, I don't feel like I can fully train someone when I'm also training myself.
Right.
I feel like
your attention would be split.
It is, and it's not fair to anybody. Now, like I train people now and whatnot, but I don't take any money for it or anything like that. It's more or less friends that like I'm helping out just to like kind of keep that mentality of how to help people out and direct them in the gym and whatnot. And I was like, later in life, I can use all the business and, exercise science stuff I accumulated from Akron and hopefully, be able to start my own gym, because I would love to train people the way that my trainers have trained me and put them through shows and show them how to go about it, how to train, how to diet, how to pose, there's so many intricacies in bodybuilding that other people have shown me that I want to eventually pass down.
Yeah, and you want to be able to give back to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
You a whole bunch.
I mean, bodybuilding's ebbed and flowed over the years. It was huge. Arnold Schwarzenegger. My parents talk about how it used to be on TV, and my aunts and uncles would watch the Olympia back then, and then it disappeared for a while. And then now recently, with I guess the explosion of the fitness industry more with social media,
and everything else
it's
too,
become a lot more. And then even with that, I feel like some of it's just so much skewed. I feel like a lot of people go into bodybuilding for the wrong reasons and stuff like that.
Right.
And sometimes I know from personal accounts from friends, 95% of guys that I know start lifting just because they're like, I want to look good to try to find a girlfriend.
Right. Yeah.
Most times, even if they don't give you the real answer off the bat, you're like, tell me the truth.
Yeah, there's some type of
looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah. Or just there's a self-confidence issue, you know what I mean? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with lifting to help boost your self-confidence.
No, absolutely
not.
But
if that's the only once you get to that point where you're like, okay, I feel good, I'm comfortable with myself and everything like that, it can I know a lot of women, I know a lot of guys that have fallen into this spiral where it's just you get to the point where you're never good enough. You never look good enough. And that's dangerous.
I've been there.
That's dangerous
time.
in bodybuilding. Yeah. That's dangerous in anything else. And you have to have something else that you're focused on in life to be like, because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, right? And you have to when you're super close to a show. Because
there's no other way
around it.
You're only hindering yourself at that point.
Right. But
if you're going to do it 100% and then afterwards choose to walk away or continue.
Yeah. And so, but if you put all of your eggs in that one basket 24/7, 365 days a year, if something doesn't happen, then your entire world is shattered.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing that you have. So for you, I mean, you have PA school that you're pursuing, you know what I mean? Bodybuilding is still, it's a full-time job as we talked from the schedule and stuff like that. But you have other passions. You have other things that you're chasing. You have other things that you do.
I have to, or I wouldn't be sane. Right.
And so that's going to kind of roll us into this next half, you know what I mean? Where it's okay, cool, bodybuilder. People, I'm not going to say it. I want the words to come out of your mouth. So if you had to describe the way
he's
that
been
people
waiting for this
kind
for
of
weeks.
The way that people stereotype
For example, my lovely girlfriend gets it quite a bit where guys are afraid to be friendly to her because they think I will just pummel them into oblivion. For talking. And she's like, he won't, I know him from school. I had classes with him, but he won't even look over here and say hi to me because you're standing around. I'm like, people are terrified of me for no reason.
Right.
But if you really came up and talked to me, you would know that I am the biggest nerd weeb of all time. Any time that I haven't devoted to bodybuilding or going to PA school or is devoted to something that's just so nerdy that your head would explode.
So that's let's open up that entire world, right? So there's the bodybuilding world, right? That I think people kind of have an idea of.
Well, I think people that's the first impression that they get from me just by looking at me. They're like, "Oh,
meathead."
Every weird comment I get from people in bars when I go places, you look like you lift. No, dude, never once. I've never stepped a foot in the gym. And they're like, okay. I'm like, because that's the first thing people see.
Right.
And I off the jump, that's always. I'll bet my life on 9 times out of 10, they're like, you look like you go to the gym. I'm like, no. What is a gym? Is that a person? J-I-M?
Yeah, so... and you have that, you fall into that definition. You know what I mean? People tend to, I'm working on this piece right now called Preconceived Notions, where I was like, psychologically, right? Within a couple of seconds of meeting somebody, you've already, without even understanding how you're doing it or why you're doing it, you've kind of placed them into this little slot.
Yeah,
right?
of what you like your predetermined.
Yeah, what you believe, your preconceived notion, what you believe that they're interested in or what they're pursuing. You know what I mean? So like when people meet you, they're probably like, oh, okay, he goes to the gym, he goes home, he eats food, he flexes in the mirror, he goes to sleep, wakes up, flexes in the mirror before he gets in the shower in the morning. And then
Actually,
like,
my shower it's just a 360 mirror with water so I can look at myself at all times.
Oh, geez, that's
it's incredible.
Intense. I'd be afraid of that. So, but I mean, you just said, right? There's this whole other side where most of the time people are like, oh,
unless you're close to me, you really don't know.
Yeah, you have
don't
no
know.
idea.
You would never guess.
And that's the beautiful thing. I mean, and we've talked about it a couple of times up to this point where it's just like, if you are willing to open a conversation with somebody, you have no idea what you're going to be able to find. When me and Jake met, we met in choir, right? I mean, I thought that he was super weird when I first met him because he was super quiet. You know what I mean? Like
some people are just quiet.
Yeah, I would try to, or we would try to have conversations or something like that. But he was like, yeah, okay, like okay, cool. But then like the more we were around each other and everything, we finally connected the one day because I was training for, I was actually training for the Golden Gloves at that point, and I was starting to get really cut. I was dropping weight. I mean, I'm sitting at like 210 right now. I cut down to 168 for the Golden Gloves. Like 172 because that was the weight class. And so like I was lifting all the time. We were talking about the gym and everything. And that's actually how we connected, where he was like, oh, I'm this type 1 diabetic. I'm trying to gain weight. And I was like, that's cool. I was like, let's work on this because I was working with actually one of the original 3 co-founders for JJD, Dom Dundee. And he was helping me come up with training programs. I was like, let's try this out. I was like, let's start training you and see what happens. And I mean, that friendship would have never happened if we wouldn't have just been like, oh, hey, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
For whatever. I mean,
you got to give everybody a chance. Like, I mean, whether your first impression is good or bad, there's been so many, you wouldn't realize how many friends that I have now, not like super close friends, but people who, you know, we have the mutual respect for each other that either thought I hated them immediately or, I mean, if you haven't been able to tell, and you know personally that I'm just a very loud person. I've never been anybody who's like really like afraid to talk to anybody. Yeah, right. I like, you know, I'll say what's on the top of my head. I have absolutely no filter. People will text me. Zero filter. Yeah, I'm really. I don't think I've cursed once, and I'm really proud of myself.
That's what I was like. Yeah, I warned him. I was like, all right, man, you got to keep this clean when you're on here.
I watched Sesame Street all week. I was like, no curse words. So like, I'll have people text me and come in the gym and be like, "Are you here?" Because I'm pretty sure I hear you from the front of the building and I know you're in the back. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been here. So, I mean, it's just like, it's easy to write somebody off immediately just by looking at them and exchanging, you know, 1 or 2 sentences. But when you really sit down and ask somebody about the things that they like and that they're passionate about and whatnot, they end up becoming like an incredibly different person. And like you
see them light up.
Yeah. And what I was trying to get to before was like, I've had people. No, I got off on my own tangent. That was my bad. I was like, I almost completely forgot what I was trying to talk about.
All right, well, let's get back to it before you forget again.
I was saying, like, I've had so many friends where because of me being loud and obnoxious, sometimes have pissed them off. But then they'll come up to me and actually like talk to me, and they're like, holy crap, like you're pretty cool. I'd hang out with you, and then they end up becoming my lifting partner and whatnot. I remember specifically there was a guy, it was just a joke, and I didn't know I was making him mad, but I kept calling him bird legs. And one day he just I guess I caught him on a bad day, and he came in and I didn't even know his real name. I just called him bird legs. He came up and ripped me a new one. He's like, I don't appreciate blah, blah, blah. And I'm not one who's going to get there and get mad at him because I was the one being a jag off about it.
Yeah, you were.
But I didn't know. Like, that's my problem is I'll say stuff and like pick on people, and I won't know what the extent of it, like the damage of what I'm saying is sometimes. Because they'll laugh, but really they're
internally
super pissed about it. And I'm like, I never like I don't catch on to those very well. I don't catch on to those subtle cues. I ended up going up and having like a conversation with him afterwards. Learned his real name. It was Dan. And he ended up being my training partner for like 1.5 years, almost 2 years until he moved afterwards. And it all started off, I didn't know his name. I was basically making fun of his small calves, and he yelled at me. And then we ended up becoming like really good friends for like almost, and we're still friends now. He just lives in Columbus.
Yeah. And you have, I mean, like you said, you have no idea what sometimes the comments that you make to people, what that's doing internally.
Oh, I get it.
You may
I
be
get it
super
all the
self-conscious
time.
about stuff, or, you know, like.
You have no clue. And that's why I always tell people, I'm like, if I'm like being very abrasive, like personally to you or saying something, like say something to me. Like, I'm not going to get mad that you're mad because it's my fault. Like
That's
it's
important.
whatever.
Being able to identify
Yeah.
those personality, I don't want to say deficit, but those traits that you have that you know could come off the wrong way. Are they important to identify so that you know about them mentally
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can warn other people? about
Exactly. And then like specifically with the guy that I was talking about from the gym, when we became friends, he basically told me, he's like, I became a completely different person than when he realized like who I really was. Because he thought I was just some
Musclehead.
a-hole
Yeah.
musclehead that was being mean to him because he didn't have good calf genetics. But I was way more than that. And I was just, just a goofy dude who's extremely loud and has no regulator on his voice whatsoever. And then on top of that, I was like, I have an entire base level of nerdiness that I've cultured since I was yay high that most people just don't know about unless you're close to me.
Right.
Like, so, okay, so we'll start with you.
Okay.
If you name 2 or 3 things like off the top of your head that you would say are like the nerdiest things about you, whether it's like, you know, like shows you like or games that you play or like whatever.
Let's see.
I want to get you in on this conversation. You're a good listener.
Well, I have to be one of those quiet people too. Right.
I got you.
Filter.
Yeah, that's
I
the
was
truth.
really into Batman when I was little.
Batman? You're not now?
And I collected all the action figures. I still have those.
No. I have all the, you remember the Transformers?
Yeah,
Not the Transformers, the Megazords from Power Rangers,
Oh,
like how they
geez.
all had their
Yeah,
one. I have like all the original generations like linked up into their like giant Megazord like in my basement. My parents kept it. Oh yeah, dude, I had all those. They were great. I know I still have them too, and they're probably mint condition, but I just haven't looked at them in a while. But I know I have them.
All right, number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
Number 2. I'm trying to think. Because I am pretty nerdy.
Oh yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, while he thinks,
I don't
you give your first one.
All right. Man, when I was a kid, and I still like to do this now, I just read encyclopedias for fun. Just for craps and giggles.
That's pretty
Knowledge-based
I love
nerdiness.
random
No,
facts,
that's
man.
fine.
I mean, it's just super
I mean,
cool.
I guess I'm kind of the same way. Like, I have a deep knowledge of just useless facts that you would just never
Yeah,
need. Because
yeah.
as a kid, I used to watch like History Channel.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I grew
And-
up watching Novice
and-
Science now. And
Yeah,
stuff.
and then like now I'll like go on YouTube. I'm not big on reading, as we've talked about before, but I'll go on YouTube and watch videos of like, 10 interesting facts from this part of the world or 50 facts about blankety blank that you would never guess. And I retain all that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, just because
Yeah,
I
it's
had
like,
to
I
had
can't
to
retain the stuff that I need to retain, but I can retain 50
it goes back
random
to,
facts from YouTube.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before. I chose to click on that video because it interested me first. It pulled me in, and I had the wherewithal to watch the whole video, and that's why I remember it. When I'm told I have to read a book because it's in the curriculum, I don't keep that.
Right.
I keep it until I'm done with it. But 3 months ago, watched like haunted story facts like online and whatnot, and then me and my girlfriend are looking up places to like visit in Niagara Falls, and I'm looking. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is one of the 13 most haunted places in in Canada. And she's like, how? Why would you know that?
Jeez. Did you come up with a number 2?
Yeah, I look up all kinds of interesting facts about like the Walt Disney Company.
Oh, you love
And-
Disney?
Yeah, I love Disney.
My family goes like 4 times a year. My mom will have gone 5 times to Disney for like 5 weeks in this year alone.
Oh wow, yeah, I love Disney World, and I love like.
Do you
looking up
collect
all
the
their
pins?
operations.
Do you know what they
do,
are?
yeah.
You do? I have like 5 booklets at home of the Disney pins.
Do you
And
collect the
ladies
Hard
and gentlemen,
Rock
here is a
pens?
perfect
No,
example.
I
random relationships
Yeah,
happen. For random
I collect
reasons.
the Hard Rock lighters. So
Okay,
anytime I go to a
yeah.
Hard Rock hotel, I'll get the Zippo lighters and whatnot.
yeah.
But I have my aunt she's the main reason we go to Disney so much. She has a Disney themed family practice. She's a physician and she owns a family practice. Every room is a different Disney theme.
Oh wow.
And she goes down there for continued education, and that's kind of how my family started going down there so much.
Right, yeah.
Spend 1 weekend looking at meetings and then spend 2 weeks at the parks.
Right.
Don't know how that always works out. But yeah, we'll go down there. So she had me started collecting pins, and I used to collect all of them, but now it's like when I go down there, there's special cast pins that only people that work at the parks get. I try to get all those within the week that I'm there. And then if it's Pluto, if I see somebody who has a Pluto pin because he's my favorite character, I'll collect those too.
Nice,
yeah.
nice. All right, so my number 2, I'd probably have to go with, like, I'm super, not just like encyclopedias and random facts, but I nerd out on anything medical. I mean, like, just
Yours aren't as cool as
nursing,
ours.
nursing knowledge. You know what I mean? No, I'm a knowledge-based nerd.
That's
you know what I mean?
fine.
Well, you're just not as nerdy, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Well-
just in the books, nerd.
Yeah, I'm
We're
just in the books, nerd.
wearing capes and running around Disney World.
Yeah.
Nerdy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've never crossed into that world. You know what I mean? I've always kind of been the reader. Like when I was like 7 years old or something like that, I read 20,000
Give me
Leagues
books
Under
on
the Sea.
tape, boy.
You know what I mean? So I love reading because for me I was able to transport myself into a different world. You know what I mean? And so that was that escape for me. But I've never really I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland, either one.
Blessed.
But when I was a little kid, I've been to Europe 7 times. You know what I mean?
I've never been out of the
So
country. I'm
for me,
terrified.
my
mom always said somebody would steal me.
I don't think you're that cute. But my mom was born
Not
and
now.
raised in Slovakia, right? So like I never got to go to any of that stuff. I was never really exposed to comic books, nothing. Because I mean, I always make the joke I was chained up in my parents' basement until I was in 8th grade because I was homeschooled. But
Close
I make
enough.
fun of homeschoolers. I make fun of homeschool because I
Basically.
was homeschooled, right? But all of my stuff has just been like, oh, I want to learn more about the country that we visited.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do
No,
this.
then
So
that's
it's always
fine.
been
Everybody
knowledge.
has their own like level of like nerdiness / hobbies, whatever they get into. Like I'll just run through like a quick list. My number 1, if I had to say the thing that I'm most nerdy about, comics. I've always loved it because I wish I could draw. I wish so. I'm not a bad artist, but I could never draw what I like, recreate what I saw in comic books. So instead of like, creating my own and whatnot, I dove right into all the information, like when it comes to Marvel Comics. And then when they started making the live action movies, oh my God. Since like,
Well, you told me we couldn't record last week because
because I told him we couldn't record last week on Thursday because Ant-Man and the Wasp came out. And I was like, I have stuff that I need to do earlier in the day. And then I'm going to the midnight pre-release and whatnot. I was like, I'm off limits that day. It's not happening. I haven't missed a like day one release of a Marvel movie since I think Thor: The Dark World, which was the worst one in my opinion, which is why I didn't go see it immediately. But now I kind of regret it that it ruined my streak. But I like basically even when I was little, I remember my dad taking me to go see. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, so I'll get these all out of order, but not the original 3, but when they did the ones with Anakin Skywalker and all that,
yeah.
like
The
the prequels and
prequels,
whatnot.
Right.
He fell asleep in the movie theater in midnight showing of it, and I sat there and watched like the whole 2.5 hour movie basically by myself and whatnot. So I've been super nerdy about that. What was it? Last couple months ago, I went and won the Marvel Trivia Night over at Jersey's in Belton, and then. So I ended up getting like a $50 gift card from just like relentlessly just whipping out useless facts. like
yeah, nobody sees that.
like the
coming.
Earth, the Earth where like most of the stuff takes place with Iron Man and whatnot. The universe that it's in is 616. Did either of you guys know? I didn't think so. All right, that's you would think it would be 1, but it's not. It's 616 is the main Marvel continuity. Yeah. Now we know what we're dealing with here, boys.
Man, my brain is melting.
So then it's like, on top of that, I've always loved cartoons, which kind of goes with comic books and animations and whatnot. Right. I've watched anime like almost my entire life, and I still do now. 1,000.
We were at the gym. I mean, I did first off, my shoulders still feel like they're not attached to my body, but. I mean, we were at the gym on, what was it, Tuesday? Was it Tuesday? And they spent like 20 minutes sitting there, him and his buddy talking back and forth about this anime. And I'm just like sitting there. I was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of listen, pretend that I know what's going on. And he stopped and he was like, you have no idea what we're talking about, do you?
No,
like,
not one
idea.
Bit. Like, I've watched so many shows and completed so many. The crowning jewel, One Piece, has, if you look at Crunchyroll, which is a streaming site for just all anime stuff and whatnot, it has 1,019 episodes. I've watched every single one of them in that show, and that's just one. And that's just one show. I've watched hundreds of shows,
that's
ranging
that bodybuilding dedication.
Yeah,
but with
well,
anime.
yeah. When I'm on the treadmill, I'm just sitting there reading subtitles. So I do read. It just has to be going really fast on the screen. It
While
can't be
you're walking.
Yeah, it can't be printed on a book.
Jeez.
But then, like, I've watched so many series from, like, 12 episodes ranging from other ones that have like 100, 200, 600 episodes and whatnot. And I love it. It's like the stories and stuff like that are so much better than me than Grey's Anatomy.
That's going to get some work.
Yeah, that one was for my girlfriend because she's watched all that and she's like, I don't understand how you don't like it. I was like, well, I don't understand why you don't like the shows and stuff that I watch.
Yeah, everybody's got their niche.
But she like me being nerdy and whatnot is like the one thing that she like loves. Like one of the things she loves most about me is that I've never been afraid. Like even as I got bigger and whatnot, it wasn't something like that occurred to me where I'd be like, I gotta kind of hide this weird nerdy. I gotta be like, I'll go to the gym rocking a My Hero Academia t-shirt, which is one of the biggest anime that is out right now, like westernized even.
Right.
And then if I had to say three, I love gaming. I've always loved gaming. When I was little, there was no kids in my neighborhood that were like generically my age. So my dad would just bring video games home. I remember him bringing home like the original Game Boy and the first two Pokemons.
Nice.
And we just would play through it together. And then we ended up getting the PlayStation 1 and we played through Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon together. And then I ended up getting my first Xbox and played Gears of War, and I stole my neighbor's Wi-Fi so I could play online. And it just kept rolling from there. And then like now, most of my friends, that's what we do when we talk and we hang out and like, we relax, we play games. If I'm not watching anime on my phone and whatnot, I'm usually playing games with my friends. Or like, especially I just bought the Nintendo Switch. I can take that anywhere. I can take that to the gym and play Zelda while I'm walking on the treadmill, which I have done.
That takes coordination.
It's a little difficult. Motion controls get crazy.
I'd probably eat crap, and then you'd see me flying off the back of the treadmill.
Shoot off there.
There it goes.
Yeah, but see, like all of that, I feel like makes me who I am, and like I don't really hang out with a lot of people that, like, my friends don't look like me. Like, most people think, like, oh, the guys he hangs around with, are, like, bench pressing cars and, dragging tires through the street and, like, telephone poles and whatnot. All my friends are just generic, nerdy-looking dudes. And I love them. Yep. I love them to death, every single one of them. and like, that's what we do. We go to the gym, we get done what we need to, and then it's like, then you can enjoy everything else.
Let's go play pool at Fiddlesticks.
Yeah,
let's go game.
Let's go game till
nights.
3. Yeah, we like twice a month we try to get all of my friends together and like either play board games, which like some of them go as deep as like some would assume Dungeons and Dragons would be, and then other ones is just like fun stuff that we found on the internet that we hook up for Xbox controllers to my buddy's PC and then play on his big screen down in his basement and whatnot. But like that. I'm thinking either like this weekend or a weekend after they have that 16-bit barcade up in Cleveland, and I think we're going to probably go do something like that,
which is a blast.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome.
And I love what you said. Like when we kind of started this topic, and I really think it kind of encompasses what I'm trying to get people to understand about you, right, as a person, because everybody that I pick to come on to here has a purpose, right? And something that I see in them that are lessons that other people could learn, right? Yeah. And then for you, it's just, you said that as I got bigger, as I got more involved in bodybuilding, as I got this, I never felt like I needed to hide this part of me. And you don't.
The thing is I justified being nerdy and could bring it out more because what are you going to do about it?
Right.
I was like, yeah, like for a while there, dude, I was playing like professional Pokemon cards. Like I'd go Thursdays at every Thursday down at Old Carolina in Canton, they have a Pokemon tournament, and you can qualify there to go to regionals and the nationals and whatnot.
See, I didn't even know they had regionals or national tournaments for Pokemon cards.
$2 million prize pool.
Jeez.
Nationals is in Columbus. It was last weekend. I watched it on Twitch online. Yeah, dude.
See, this is a whole different world for me.
Cool. And then like now my friends are like, oh, let's try Magic the Gathering and whatnot, which is really in depth. So if anybody is listening or watching this and whatnot and wants to like help out, we'd really appreciate it because we don't know what we're doing.
I could hook you up. I know a couple of people that
they
that
take
do
it serious. They're
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
I spent $3,000 on a deck and it'll destroy you. I'm like,
Whoa.
I'm terrified. I was like, but it sounds like fun.
Yeah, and stuff. But that's just things that nobody ever thinks that people are going to be involved in. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, even me right here, I was like, I didn't know they had Pokemon tournaments.
If you look,
well, first off,
there's so much
Yu-Gi-Oh
cool
fan, but
oh man, you're a sad individual.
oh come on, I thought this was supposed to be all about accepting other people.
No. That's a Pokemon Magic. You know, that was like the big three: Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards, and then Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh kind of like fell off when they started doing like multiple dimensions and story timelines and stuff.
Yeah, that's when I kind of fell off.
It was you know about all that?
All the dimensions and stuff.
Yeah, where there's like all like simultaneous timelines where like Yu-Gi it just never happened and whatnot.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is starting to get weird.
It got real weird.
I was like,
when that started happening, the card game kind of started falling off too. But Pokemon and Magic are still going strong.
Yeah, and that's what like. So you're these almost two separate people, right?
Oh, I think I have split personality.
Yeah. So you're two. What if somebody didn't know you, right? They'd think, oh, this guy's two separate people. But you are that person 24/7.
Yeah,
right?
I am.
You're not. You're unapologetically yourself.
I could be doing 500 pounds on squats, but then also talking over my shoulder about deck strategies to take to Thursday night Pokemon championships.
Right. Yeah, and that's what. So I mean, we're getting close to time, but so we're gonna have to kind of.
That's fine.
To wrap
I talk
it up
a lot.
Yeah, but so we're like the definition of you, right? If you were to like try to place yourself in a slot, you couldn't.
No, I wouldn't want to
place
be.
yourself
I wouldn't
in one
want to
single
be.
slot.
I don't want people to lump me in with other people. I am me. Because of all of my experiences and everything that I've done, I have created a unique and individual person who is myself.
Yeah, and you don't have to be ashamed of it.
I love
beautiful
who,
thing.
I love
You can
who
be
I am.
you can be proud of it.
Unicorn.
You can
Yeah,
a unicorn.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have majestic mane. I wish I could grow that hair.
And so you can build yourself up and you can get to the point where you're happy with what you are. So if you're out there, right, and you're struggling with, I have like, people make fun of me because I'm a nerd. You know what I mean? Or people make fun of me because of this.
Embrace it. You'll find people that love you, that want to be around you, that want to be. I'll be your friend. Great. We'll go play video games and have game night and do all the nerdy stuff you want because I live for that. That's what makes me feel most at home when I'm not in the gym.
And that's the beautiful thing. You need to find things that make you feel at home. Right?
Absolutely.
If you feel some of the worst times that I've had in my life are times where I forced myself to do something because I thought it's what other people wanted to see.
Oh, absolutely.
And
there's a lot of people that think that.
I hated it. And I was depressed. I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I was doing. I got involved in a bunch of things that I shouldn't have been involved in, all because I was like, I need to impress other people by doing these things. And then I realized, I'm super, people assume like, oh, military, nursing, you know what I mean? Like he's just intense, 24/7, gotta go. And there are times when I get on those roles where people need to be like, oh, take a breath, relax.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's also, you know what I mean? Like I love going to the game nights and just nerding out for a little bit because it's a whole different world for me. And it's not something that
I think
been
we're going to have
exposed
a masquerade game night again here soon.
I'm down. I'm down. That was a lot of fun last time. But, and then for me, like, it's whatever your self-care is. So for me, it's like going home and I sit on my balcony, I have a glass of bourbon and I read a book. You know what I mean? And that's my self-care. And that's fine. And if your self-care is gaming, then that's good. And if somebody else's self-care is going on a run, that's cool. If somebody else's self-care is doing this, do whatever you got to do to keep yourself sane, keep yourself happy, and it gives you motivation to pursue all the other things that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's changed over the years. Sometimes it wasn't always just gaming or like a certain game or whatever. There was a point when I was in high school where I really enjoyed running because I was doing it and it would just go out and clear my head. And that changed when I got attacked by a dog, but
That's a good reason for it to
yeah,
change.
so I was like, no more running for me
Just
through the
change it out of
neighborhood.
trauma.
Yeah, it was like never again. We'll stay inside.
Jeez. So, I mean, take that with you as you're going through life. Know that things can evolve over time. Your definitions of your self-care can change over time. Be unapologetically who you are, and regardless of what people are saying, keep pursuing the things that you're passionate about, because if you find something like RJ is saying that pulls you, you don't have to force yourself to get to your gym.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can push yourself once you get there. That's an amazing thing to find in life, and you might not find it right away. Like you said, there's a lot of trial and error that goes through college degrees, and that's okay. That's fine.
Just don't stop.
Don't
open
stop
yourself
moving.
up and introduce yourself to as many things as possible.
And be open to trying
Yeah,
as many different
absolutely.
things as possible.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy to that I will say is like a caveat is, if there's like RJ understands that he's a very abrasive person sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand those personality things too, where you can't just be like, oh, well, people should be open and accepting of the fact that I'm abrasive. You can't do that either.
No,
Because you have to be able to control
Empathy,
those
empathy,
pieces.
empathy.
Yes, understand what other people are going through and empathize with what they're
There's a
feeling.
lot. I think, like what you were saying, there's a lot of people who feel that they have to act a certain way or be a certain way to impress people. But if I can like leave you with one tip, people will be 95% of the time, most people will be impressed with you for being who you are.
Amen. Yep.
Don't be anything that you're not, because most people, unless they're extremely dense, will see through it and know that you're not
being
you're
genuine.
not who you really are. When you really open up, I mean, I'm sure if you go back and look at this tape, when we started getting into the nerdy stuff, I perked up real big time.
Yeah, no, your
because
eyes
I can
turned
just
into
this stuff can just freely flow out of me. Like, it's not something I have to like really think about, or like, this is stuff that I've lived since I was little, and it's never changed. It's never going to change. I'm going to be nerdy. I'm going to like the things that I like, whether it's popular or not. And if you don't like that, then maybe I'm not for you, or you're not for me. But I'm not going to like shove it in your face and whatnot, or I'm not going to let what you say bother me and not do what I want. Like, I love who I am.
Yeah.
Everybody should love who they are, whether it's weird or not.
Amen to that. So, I mean, with that being said, I know it was really just like a me and RJ conversation.
I got him in there.
Is there anything that you want to add before we start to wrap things up?
He wants to go to Disney World.
Yeah,
I'm sure there had to
with
be a
me.
lot of
Yeah,
interesting.
I want to talk to him more about Disney and everything. But
Well, I'm sure that we're going to have to
Dude,
go
there's
get
some
food
cool
after
stuff
this.
I could show you and get you into down there.
yeah, that would be sweet.
I mean, we're going to have to go get food, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll go
sure there'll
eat.
be chances to talk after that. But I mean, you just got to listen to, an hour and 10 minutes.
Right. Well, I enjoyed all of
awesomeness.
it.
Dude, I'll come back anytime you guys
Yeah,
want.
it's
If
like-
anybody has any, like, if you guys get like people on here who want to know like more questions or anything like that, I'd love to be back on. I love talking.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I was thinking that, oh, shoot, I'm nerdy, but he might out-nerd me.
Yeah. I'm deep with it.
Yeah, there's some intense stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of JJD Thoughts podcast. This has been episode 3 with RJ Holliday.
That was me. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.